Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's episode of the UpShots, we will be covering tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. They were from San Jose tonight, and this was actually a pretty good episode of Monday Night Raw. I don't know if it's because of the Saudi Arabia show on Friday or what it was, but tonight's episode wasn't too bad. It kicked off with Seth Rollins coming to the ring, and he said that he talked about what he did to Brock Lesnar Friday, and then he said we was in a new era for the Universal title. And he said that anybody that wanted to try to take his title from him could try, but he could out-wrestle anyone in the back, and then they could try the hard way, but they couldn't lace up his boots. This led to Baron Corbin coming out, and Baron Corbin pretty much ran down that he was ripped off Friday in Saudi Arabia because the ref interfered, and that he would be getting his rematch at Stomping Ground. He said that he talked to WWE management and he got to pick the ref. This led to Sami Zayn coming out, and Sami Zayn said in this instance he was actually on Team Corbin because Seth Rollins was obsessed with Brock Lesnar and we needed a Universal Champion that wasn't so obsessed with Brock Lesnar. And Zayn said that maybe if he helps out Corbin, maybe Corbin will help him out. Him and Seth Rollins started bickering backwards and forth, and this led to Kevin Owens coming out. And he said he was out there to take up for his friend Sami Zayn. And this led to a match being made for the main event between KO and Seth Rollins. After this, we get a Lars Sullivan match. It's Lars Sullivan versus Lucha House Party in a 3-on-1 elimination match. And this is the way it should have went down Friday at Saudi Arabia. He pretty much dominated them the whole match. He picked up an easy win. But there was one really cool spot on the outside of the ring. They had their piñata sitting on the steps. And he took, I think it was Kalisto, and he done like a scoop slam onto the steps and just squashed the piñatas. Then after this, there was a 24/7 segment in the back. R-Truth and Carmella was walking out through there, and then a bunch of the underused superstars got to chasing them, and they ran into an elevator. Well, as they entered the elevator, Cedric Alexander, EC3, Drake Maverick, and one other person. Who was the other person? Heath Slater made it into the elevator with them, and they go to take off. The elevator closes, and the ref's stuck on the outside with the other superstars. The elevator breaks down, so they're trapped inside of it. This was sort of a funny segment, and it reoccurs throughout the show, so we'll get to that later on. There is a split-screen interview done with Lacey Evans and Becky Lynch. I didn't really care too much for this because when they do the split-screen interviews, they can't read off of each other. But it's just pretty much the same old stuff that they've been saying. The announcers announced that there will be a tag team match between Bayley and Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss and Lacey Evans. It's a Champions versus Challengers match. This leads to a backstage promo with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Alexa Bliss pretty much says that she's really upset because of the way Bayley treats her, and that Bayley's pretty much a horrible person and a master manipulator. She always has been since her days in NXT. She's trying to convince Nikki Cross that Bayley is the way she is. And Nikki Cross agrees to be in her corner tonight for their tag team match. There's a Miz TV segment with Samoa Joe. Miz announces him as the new United States Champion. Samoa Joe comes out and corrects him. He says that he is still the United States Champion because his shoulders was never down, so he was given the opportunity to win back his title. Which none of this is true. It was given to him because Rey Mysterio was hurt. I don't really like the way they've done that, but I do like the way they make Joe seem arrogant and cocky and just pretend like it never happened. Miz took offense to Joe threatening Rey Mysterio's son because Miz is a father. So Joe said instead of talking about Mysterio's family, maybe he should talk about the Miz's. At this time, he is interrupted by Braun Strowman. And then Braun Strowman is interrupted by Bobby Lashley. Then Bobby Lashley's interrupted by Ricochet. And then Cesaro's music hits, and Cesaro comes out and lays out Ricochet. And then all the guys in the ring start to brawl, and it goes to commercial break. When it comes back, there's a 6-man tag, which that you could see that as a setup. It was Miz, Ricochet, and Strowman versus Cesaro, Joe, and Lashley. This was actually a pretty good match, and in my opinion, I think it was probably the match of the night. Each man was given their time to shine, and Ricochet and Cesaro work really well together, and I think it's good that instead of doing 50-50 booking again this week, they put them in this type of match. The ending of it came when Joe decided to leave, so Strowman tagged in The Miz, and he went to go after him, and Bobby Lashley hit a spear on him as he got out of the ring. And then this was actually a pretty cool maneuver, but it was almost a mess up. Ricochet come running, and Miz was in the corner, because he just got tagged in. And he backdrops Ricochet over him, and he just barely connected with Lashley. It could have been really bad. But back in the ring, Cesaro and The Miz are going backwards and forth. Miz finally gets the upper hand and hits the skull-crushing finale. Ricochet tags in. He goes to do the 630, and he lands a bit awkward, but he gets the win. And Cesaro may have injured his knee. There's a backstage interview with Baron Corbin, and he says that he has not decided on who his ref will be yet. And Sami Zayn comes up and tells him there's something he needs to talk to him about, and he will like it. Back in the ring, we have the Becky Lynch, Bayley, Evans, and Bliss match. This was a decent match, and it's good that they put Lacey Evans in a tag match because it really hides her inexperience. The match, and Evans picked up the win with the women's right. It was actually a decent match. I mean, it wasn't no match of the year candidate or anything. There's a backstage segment with Shane and Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn comes into Shane's locker room or office, and he wants to talk to him about being Corbin's ref. And he says that tonight he would like to be the ref in the main event. And he says if he can't be the ref, he'd like to be the outside ref. And he says that Seth Rollins has his buddy Roman Reigns, so there may be some cheating, which that played Shane's hatred for Roman. So Shane plays it off like it was his ideal. So Sami Zayn's going to be the outside ref. Paul Heyman's out to cut a promo. He recaps what happened last week on Monday Night Raw and Friday. And he says since it didn't work out well, them announcing when Brock Lesnar was going to cash in, that him and his client have decided that they're not going to announce it no more, and it's going to be a surprise to everyone. Which that's the way it should be to start with, especially since Brock Lesnar is a super heel. They remind us of the main event. Then we're back to the 24/7 segment in the elevator, and it's like a black and white thing. And EC3 says if they don't hurry up and get rescued, he's going to have to eat someone. And they go backwards and forth. After this, we have the Iconics come out for a tag team match. They introduce their opponents, and it's two local talent. And then they degrade them and put them down, and then they put down the city, doing their comedy as they do. I actually really do like this. I'd like to see them do this more with the Iconics instead of having them lose every week in either a singles match or a tag match. Because they started doing this when they first won the titles. They done it once or twice, and then they just stopped doing it. This is a good way to use them. It was a squash match, of course. The Iconics picked up the victory really easy. There was nothing to it. And then after this is over, they do the Shane's doing a celebration from where he beat Roman Reigns. Drew McIntyre comes out first, and he's actually got bagpipes playing him to the ring. And then Shane comes out, and they dance down to the ring. And in the ring, there is Shane's Best in the World trophy and a table with balloons and champagne. Shane gets in the ring, and he starts talking up Roman Reigns. He talks how he's the first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's one of the only people that can say that they beat The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. But then he says he hasn't beaten Shane. Then he recaps what happened at Friday at Saudi Arabia. And he says that he can't thank Drew McIntyre enough because McIntyre helped him out with his game planning. And he was at ringside to give him motivation and inspiration. Which he doesn't say that he also interfered. I really do like this from Shane. Playing it up as he actually beat Roman Reigns by himself. Then McIntyre says at Stomping Ground, he's not just going to beat Roman Reigns, but he's going to hurt him. And he's very intense, and Shane's more comical. The two play off each other well. And then they celebrate with champagne, and Shane fills up the Best of the World trophy, and he drinks from it, and McIntyre just drinks from the bottle. And then Shane introduces the Revival. And they come out and they want them some champagne. But Shane tells them they can't because their match is next. But if they win, they're invited to the celebration. But they have to bring some gold with them. So this leads to the tag team match. And it's a decent match. It seems sort of rushed to me. They didn't get as much time as the six-man match. Even though there was the same amount of participants in it. But the Revival, they do such a good job as a tag team. And then you have the Usos, they're brothers, so they're a brilliant tag team. Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, they're a good tag team, but there's just sort of which the Revival did pick up the win in sort of a cheap way. Jey Uso had cleared everybody out with super kicks, and he went up to do the Flying Oos when Dawson got the tag, the blind tag as he jumped off, and he just rolls him out of the ring and picks up the win. So we have new tag team champions. After this, there's a backstage interview with Seth Rollins. He says that he was ready for Lesnar on Friday, he's ready for Corbin at Stomping Ground, and that he's ready for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens tonight. It was a quick little backwards and forth thing. Then we go back to another 24/7 title segment, and they've all started to bond in the elevator, and about the time they all start to bond, the doors open, and then it's just chaos breaks loose again, which R-Truth and Carmella are able to escape back into the elevator to end the segment. Okay, up next we have this week's episode of Firefly Funhouse, and this may be the last episode of Firefly Funhouse if you've been following Bray Wyatt on Twitter. So I'm actually going to refer to my notes more on this one because I want to get everything right. Bray Wyatt is putting a sign on the door, and it says, "Abandon all hope, ye who exits here." Now, the Divine Comedy, Dante's Inferno, above the gates of hell, there's a sign that says that, but instead of exit here, it says enter here. That's one of my favorite books of all time. That's one of the reasons I know that. And he's interrupted because Rambling Rabbit is trying to fight off Mercy the Buzzard. Mercy the Buzzard's trying to eat him again. And Bray Wyatt threatens him with the Fiend, and they both get scared. And then he decides to let fate decide it. So he holds his hands up to his ears, and he says the day is Rambling Rabbit's lucky day. So I guess the good side won on this one. So he lets Rambling Rabbit go, and he lets him talk. Rambling Rabbit's talking about how it's not nice to eat friends and stuff. And he says it's crazy there, and maybe he should reveal some secrets. And then Bray Wyatt grabs him. And he's got a clown nose, and he's got like red eye makeup going up, slashes going up and down. He sort of looks like a clown. And he says that he doesn't want to do that, and he shakes him, and he throws him on the ground. And then Rambling Rabbit starts to say something, and Bray Wyatt runs over there and stomps him a couple of times, and then grabs a big mallet hammer, like you would see for like a test of strength at a carnival, and he whacks him 2 or 3 times with it, and there's some jammy blood stuff comes out of him, so he wipes it and tastes it. He says, "Yally, yally, wowie, that tastes good." And this leads us to the sponsor of tonight's episode, and it is actually a Rambling Rabbit jam. And then he does his catchphrase, and that ends the episode. This was actually really good. It was one of the best episodes that they've had so far, and all of these have been really great. I hope WWE doesn't screw this up once he makes it to the ring. They can actually just let this go on forever and just keep doing Firefly Funhouse episodes. This leads us to our main event for tonight. It was the KO versus Rollins match with Sami Zayn on the outside. And it starts off funny because Zayn, even though he's the outside ref, he makes the ref let him check Rollins for weapons. But you don't see that a lot nowadays in WWE. So he checks him. He's really methodical about it. He's checking him like his kick pads. He's checking his wrist. And he pats his ribs because Rollins has the injured ribs. And then he goes over and checks KO and he just rubs him. And it's done. It was actually sort of funny. In this match, the story of this match was pretty much Seth Rollins' ribs and KO working him over, and Sami Zayn interfering every time Seth Rollins got the upper hand. Rollins finally got tired of it, and he goes out to confront Sami Zayn, but KO knocks him into the barricade. And then they get back into the ring, and Seth Rollins gets the upper hand again, and he knocks KO on the outside, and him and Sami Zayn standing there side by side. So Rollins does a dive, and he hits both of them, which Zayn immediately then he gets back into the ring, and he stomps KO. And he gets the pin, and it's 1-2. Zayn pulls the ref out of the ring, and he wants the DQ because of what happened. He said that Rollins hit him. So he argues backwards and forth, and he gets in the ring, and he's arguing with Rollins about it. Well, Rollins finally gets fed up with it, and he grabs him, which causes the disqualification. So him and Rollins get to tussling backwards and forth. Baron Corbin runs in and beats down Rollins, and he gets a cheer, but Rollins gets the upper hand. And Baron Corbin, being the sneaky heel that he is, he runs off. So Rollins takes all of his frustration out on Sami Zayn, and he beats him with the chair. And then he pulls off the referee's shirt and hits the curb stomp while Baron Corbin watches on from the stage. And that's how this week's Raw come to an end. I thought it was actually a pretty good episode of Raw. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about it. And I'll also leave a poll up in the card, and you can check it out as well and vote on how you thought this week's episode was. But with all this said, I hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.